All I'm saying is, if a bunch of real people are stupid, why should all the fictional people be smart? Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to In Defense of the Dumb Bitch, a trope talk where we discuss why characters should be allowed to make heinously stupid decisions. This was originally a blog post, and I will be reading off that post as a kind of script. It will be linked down in the description below if you want to check it out, but I will be adding more on top of it, kind of ad-libbing as we go. But with nothing else to say, let's set the scene. Bella Swan has just decided she's going to run away from the friendly vampires doing their damnedest to protect her, straight into the arms of the evil vampire she knows will kill her. Why? She thinks her mom is in danger from said evil vamp. Does she tell the friendly vampires that all have special powers what's going on so they can actually do something? Of course not. Is there any reason to believe the evil vampire won't just kill her mother after killing her? Nope. But she tears headlong into pointless danger anyway. And, discovers that she was tricked the entire time, so it was all kind of a moot point. I like to call this the dumb bitch trope, wherein a character makes a choice that is so obviously stupid and puts them into danger or conflict they knew was going to happen. You may find the phrase, "you dumb bitch," slipping out of your mouth as the story progresses. The teenager in Burn Notice under threat of kidnapping, running away from Michael Weston's protection just to go to her school dance. The elderly woman at the beginning of Dead Rising who opens the doors to the zombie horde to get her dog, despite the dog not even being in real danger from the zombies. That one still gets me. The characters know there's danger. It's been made explicit, and they still make the stupid decision that escalates the situation. With the name and description, you may assume that I think this trope is stupid or useless, but quite the opposite. Dumb bitches are both realistic and a necessary part of the plot. Off-script tangent here. I've been playing TTRPGs for a while. D&D, Pathfinder, some indie games, and they all have one thing in common. You need someone that's going to tear off recklessly into danger to get the story moving. Because if you let all the cautious players duke it out, they'll just be sitting around making plans for forever. I know, because I'm one of the cautious players, and someone has to be the chaos gremlin charging ahead into the dungeon, or else you're just going to stand around doing nothing. Now, obviously, that chaos gremlin also needs the cautious players to rein their worst instincts in, but yeah, you could just end up sitting there talking and planning for an entire session without actually doing anything. And then the combat you were so worried about happens, and you realize you actually overplanned and trivialized the entire thing, so now it's not as much fun. I don't want to talk about it. Let's get back to the script. Let's take one of the most famous dumb bitch moments from musical theater, the song Hurricane from Hamilton. Alexander has just been threatened with vague allegations that his rivals can't actually prove. In a panic, he writes the Reynolds pamphlet, a reputation-ruining confession that reveals the depth of his extramarital affair and blackmail. He's now forever barred from the presidency. This was a time when American voters actually cared about extramarital affairs, and he's publicly humiliated his wife Eliza. Both consequences he knew could happen. As Angelica points out later, his rivals wouldn't have responded and would have been better for it. It's a true dumb bitch move. And it actually happened in the real world. Humans have a long history of making stupid decisions. If you've ever looked into the Titanic's sinking, you'll know that everything, from the boat's construction to the second the lifeboats left the deck, was one stupid decision after another. The men in charge knew the bulkheads were stupidly designed, they knew there were icebergs and ice drifts in the way of their route, and they knew they weren't putting enough people in the lifeboats. Their respective greed, hubris, and panic led to a series of stupid decisions that caused a maritime disaster. And that is the biggest catch of the dumb bitch trope, finding the reason for the stupidity. If the character was thinking logically, they wouldn't be making these decisions. So what's coming up the works? Motivation number 1, the big scared feelings. Fear, panic, desperation, trauma, etc. Horror is the genre for dumb bitch moves because it's so common to make stupid decisions when you're in fear for your life or your loved ones. Everyone's an intelligent person until Chainsaw Man is tearing after you. Then suddenly, hiding in that dark place with no secondary exit is a fantastic idea. Running into the evil wizard's tower that will definitely curse you for eternity makes sense if your adorable pet dragon is trapped up top. Maybe the characters are in such dire straits in their regular life that the stupid decision is a gamble they're willing to take. Yeah, no one wants to sign up for the creepy scientist's evil experiments, but it pays a ton and little Susie needs those cancer treatments. It's still a stupid decision, but one the reader can easily understand. Maybe one they would make themselves. All of this goes doubly for trauma. Trauma at its core is fear that got so deep or went on for so long that the brain can no longer let go of it, even after the cause of that fear is gone. Trauma comes with its own kind of decision making that often makes no sense to someone that hasn't suffered similarly. While I wouldn't encourage you to just toss trauma onto a character for a plot point, it can add more context to those strange decisions. Motivation number 2, mindfuckery. There are a million stories of people doing stupid things under the influence of real-world drugs and alcohol, but fiction gives you an even wider array to fuck with the character's mind. Spells, curses, paranormal coercion, mind control trip in the brain. There are a plethora of ways to alter a character's mind so they make stupid decisions believably. But if you want it to be a true dumb bitch decision, make sure to leave at least a little autonomy in their hands. Otherwise, it was just the fault of the demon possessing them, or whatever. Motivation 3, self-centeredness, pride, hubris, greed, etc. This one is incredibly realistic and incredibly infuriating. You have a character that knows there's danger. They can see it as well as everyone else, but they just assume they can get through it. You don't understand. They are the great Mr. Big Guy, and they couldn't possibly suffer from the same fate as the rest of you peasants. And as Mr. Big Guy, they must push the boat through that icy minefield of the ocean because they simply must beat the other ship's time across the Atlantic. Their sense of self is so inflated that the danger doesn't apply to them. It's completely understandable to them to make decisions that will negatively affect everyone else for their own benefit. Surely the consequences won't come back on them. This is the least sympathetic of all dumb bitch archetypes, and for a good reason. The amount of self-centeredness required to make such decisions would make the character unlikable from the get-go. They're not desperate for money or trying to save human lives, they just want to be richer and more important. And while this can make their dumb bitchery all the more infuriating, there's a special kind of catharsis in watching the consequences of their decisions come back to bite them. We've established that dumb bitch decisions are realistic, but let me reiterate, they're also necessary for the plot. If no one goes running headlong into danger, we never get to see the giant neon purple poison frogs inside the evil wizard's tower. And damn it, someone has to save that cute baby dragon. We've also established the possible motivations for making a dumb bitch decision. But while I believe it's a necessity to let characters be stupid, there are still ways to do it poorly. So let's talk pitfalls. Pitfall number 1. Pretending the dumb bitch isn't a dumb bitch. As a rule, I never claim a character is intelligent in my writing. I would rather let their words and actions speak for themselves. If I've done a good enough job, I shouldn't need to outright tell the audience they're smart. Because when you specifically tell the audience this character is smart, you've opened them up to closer scrutiny. Every action and word they make will be analyzed for actual intelligence. And when they make the dumb bitch decision to move the plot forward, the audience will come down harder on them in a way they wouldn't in other characters. The best way around this is to build their motivation within the intelligence. They're so smart that their pride is inflated. They're so smart that they refuse to believe they can't solve this problem on their own. They're book smart, but this is a street smarts problem outside their expertise. It's important to remember that dumb bitch decisions will always say something about the character, and it won't always be positive. It's better to admit to the character's flaws as a realistic part of them than pretend they don't exist. Pitfall number 2, the sudden switch to dumb bitch. Now, I've never watched Game of Thrones, but I have watched a lot of video essays about it. And when it comes to the final season, all the video essayists give the same critique. A ton of intelligent characters suddenly turned stupid. These weren't characters that were just said to be intelligent. The audience had watched all the smart plays they made for 7 seasons. Then they watched the savviest of all political players suddenly ignore red flags and believe the biggest liars. Everyone had become stupid for no in-world reason. It was painfully obvious to viewers that the writers cared more about wrapping things up quickly rather than making a good narrative. Now, there are ways to make the switch from intelligent character to dumb bitch decision maker. A character could suffer trauma, develop an addiction, slowly fall into greed, or enter into a new toxic relationship that negatively affects their decision making. But these reasons take time to develop and would usually happen to a couple characters at most. If you've set up the cast to be majority savvy, you're stuck playing the long game, or negatively affecting your career. Because if I remember correctly, the Star Wars project that the writers wanted to wrap up Game of Thrones for also fell through. They didn't get to do it. So, karma. Pitfall the third, when the motivation isn't set up beforehand. By the time the song Hurricane drops, the musical version of Alexander Hamilton has already been built up to be a reckless man with a tendency of running his mouth. The song goes on to remind viewers that he had used writing countless times before to get himself out of dire spots. That recklessness, plus his history of using writing, made the Reynolds pamphlet make sense from his point of view, at least. Likewise, dumb bitchery should always be set up beforehand. Showcase the character's recklessness or their pride. When things get scary, make sure the audience knows how terrified they are, how much they love the person in danger. If you plan to use mind-altering mechanics, make sure the microchip and or vampire compulsion was at least hinted at previously. If you wait until after the dumb bitchery has happened to give the reason, it feels more like retconning or lampshading than a motivation. Final thoughts. Nothing convinced me dumb bitchery was a necessity more than years of role-playing online. I watched countless role-plays peter to nothing, the plot left undone, because no one was willing to let their character take a risk. No one wanted to be reckless or eager or naive. No one wanted to let another character get one over on them. So everyone spent time wandering the setting, looking cool and aloof, and going nowhere. Fun fact, off-script tangent here, I tried multiple times to do a roleplay on Gaia Online, of all things, where I had my queen character in this matriarchal country set up that kind of Cinderella aesthetic, where whoever could catch the prince's eye could marry him, but would then become the leader of this matriarchy. And 2-1, every single time I tried to get this roleplay off the ground, every single character that entered in, they didn't really want to be queen. They didn't really want to marry the prince. They were being forced into it. They didn't really care. They didn't want to risk. They weren't reckless. And so none of those role plays, and I tried several times over multiple years, went anywhere because no one was willing to risk their character failing or looking dumb. And it's annoyed me endlessly to this day. But back to the script. True, it can be nerve-wracking to let your beloved characters be stupid or reckless, even to move the plot forward. You know the bad faith critics will always be there, ready to chide any character for not making the smart decisions. But art at its core is humanity having a conversation with itself, and humanity is messy. Giving our characters the freedom to make mistakes is tantamount to giving ourselves grace for the mistakes we've made. So ignore the bad faith critics and let the dumb bitches do what they do best. Make a great story. Thank you for watching my Trope Talk. If you would like to check out the blog post, it will be linked down in the description. I will be doing more of these, looking through my old blog posts and bringing them back with extra tangents. So if you have been reading that for a while and there's a specific post you'd love to see be made into a video, please let me know either in the comments here or on Blue Sky, wherever. I loved being able to just read through rather than having to do a quadrillion takes to figure out what I was going to say, and I will definitely do this more in the future. But with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.